Okay guys, now we have already finished the reading and the listening materials. You all have done great jobs. I really appreciate your hard work. Now let's move to the next step. We are going to create a basic template, sentence by ourselves. That is our own template for writing the main paragraph of this task. We don't want to just copy and paste the template directly from others, right? Because we may soon lose it or forget it. Of course, we can look at others' templates as the reference. But if we create a template by ourselves, we can have a more durable memory of it. And whatever situations we might meet in the test, we can use it flexibly. That is to say, we can use it in different situations as we want. Okay, do you have any questions? Yes? Oh, don't worry about that. I will guide you through the whole process at the beginning. After that, we have more time to practice it in groups or independently. Okay, now let's begin. Look at these two parts, the article and the lecture. Which one is more important? Yes, the lecture, because we only have one chance to listen to the lecture in the test. After it is finished, we can't go back to listen to it again. But for the article, we have extra time to read it in your writing. So, the raters of this task want to see that the majority of your writing is for, yes, the lecture. So now let's begin. The first sentence should go with which part? Yes, the article. The author of the article. Now let's think about a question. If you have an argument for something, you want it to write it down. Which verb would you like to use in the sentence? Argue? Good! Argue for arguments, right? Absolutely yes. So we can say, the author of the article argues that blah blah blah. This blank is for you to fill in. The main arguments of the author, right? Remember, we have done the task of filling the blanks. Yes. Now note this as. Because the author of the article is, yes, third person singular, and this sentence is in the simple present tense. So we should add an s after the original form of the verb argue. Okay, good. Now, in addition to the verb argue, can you list another one? Say? I like it. But say is more general. Like, I can say many things. I can tell you a story, right? An argument is more specific. Okay, good. What else? Claim? Good. And what else? How about state? Good. Okay, now we have already had three verbs. Argue, claim, or state. So the first sentence should be, the author of the article argues or claims or states that blah blah blah. Now wait a minute. After the arguments, what's going to be the next? Yes, the explanations. Remember the difference between arguments and explanations? Good. So we can say, the author of the article argues or claims or states that blah 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 by explaining that blah blah blah. Okay, now the next sentence should go to which part? Yes, the lecture. So what's the relationship between the lecture and the article? Yes, good. The professor's opinion is against the author's argument, right? So for this transition, we may need to use an adverb like, yes, great, however. Or maybe a phrase in contrast, right? Remember, the logical connection between sentence and sentence is very important. So we can say, however, or in contrast, the professor. Now we can choose another verb from here, right? However, or in contrast, the professor states or argues or claims that blah blah blah. Okay, now pay attention to this. The raters of this task want to see that you have the ability to summarize the main arguments, but he or she also wants to see that you have the ability to get all the important details of the lecture. Actually, the more details you give in your writing for the lecture, the higher scores he or she may give you. Think about this. When you are going to a colleague, after a lecture of a professor, you remember all the important details of the lecture according to your notes. That's fantastic, right? That's the academic ability TOEFL wants to test you. So, the next sentence, we may need to focus on the details of the lecture. We can say, he or she. Now which verb would you like to use for details? Detail, right? Good. Or maybe another verb, highlight. You know the meaning? Yes, good. So he or she details or highlights that blah blah blah. Okay, now we have already had 3 sentences. And before we come to the conclusion part, now let's first see how this template can be applied to the reading and the listening materials we have just learned.